from working in advertising, I've worked with a lot of different clients. It's nice at the Raiders because you only have one client and they have a specific voice and they have a specific look and you're not trying to reinvent the wheel every week, you know? And the Raiders do have a very specific brand and a very specific voice. So having those guidelines makes it easier for me as a producer. But it's also, you know, presents its own challenges because, like, how can you present this in a different way that's fresh, et cetera, et cetera. But I kind of like that, you know, I kind of like that formula because my biggest qualm, I guess, with working in advertising was just having those different clients and having those different personalities.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Film Goals podcast. Today, I'm with the one and only Janella Lacson.
Hello.
Thank you for being on the pod.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. So you have a cool, like, a few different stories in your filmmaking career. So I wanted to have you on and talk about all that cool stuff. And you're officially, like, the Raiders video producer. Is that what you would call your title, or what would it be?
It's technically producer.
Not video producer?
Well, the thing is, I'm the producer within the video department, so I've, you know, put it upon myself to, like, make that distinction because there are other producers within Silver and Black Productions, but I'm specifically with video. So I just do it to, like, reduce confusion. But
And you shoot and edit, though.
I do. Yeah. I shoot and edit. And one thing I learned, like, working in sports media teams, like, if you are on the team, you kind of need to do everything. So, you know, I was brought on to be a producer, but I basically shoot, I edit. I also kind of, you know, supervise and mentor, like, the PAs that we have. So it's kind of like jack of all trades, you know, utility, screwdriver type of person. Yeah.
We're going to get into that.
Yeah.
But first, let's start, like, in the beginning. What made you want to get into video production and filmmaking?
Sure. My love for, like, movies, I guess let's start with movies, really started when I was, like, a kid. Like, I always knew that I wanted to be in filmmaking, in making movies, but I just didn't know really what that was going to be. I always used to tell my parents, like, I want to be in film, and they never really took it seriously. And, I mean, I'm from an Asian family. They're like, you got to, like, be a nurse or be a doctor or something, you know. But it really, like, as I got older and they saw that, you know, I was making, like, short films for film festivals, like, they were like, maybe you actually are kind of good at this. So do your thing, girl, you know. But my filmmaking career, I guess, started when I joined, like, this LGBT youth, like, film mentoring program. And it was run by this film festival in LA called Outfest. And basically what the program was is, like, they took, like, a bunch of kids, they put them through, like, a filmmaking boot camp and, like, to write, direct, and eventually release their short films at their film festival, which happens every year. So I did that, and my first film called The First Date actually won the Audience Award that year.
Oh, cool.
So it was like a short little cute lesbian comedy. Super proud of it even till this day, but that's what really propelled me to get into film school because that was like my portfolio piece.
Oh, awesome.
That I submitted to get into NYU, and then the rest is history. Like, I was film from then on, like, really, you know, head first into it. And I think when I got into NYU, my parents were like, oh shit, you're actually probably really good at this. So they've been supportive ever since.
The funny thing is that you were in LA and you went all the way to New York.
I did.
What was the thinking behind that? Like, why would you do that?
Well, I don't know. Like, being a young kid who wanted to be in film, like, New York was the place to be. And growing up in LA, it was cool too to be around Hollywood, to be working on, like, film sets, like, as a young person. But there's just something about New York and just learning in that environment that really, like, resonated with me. But the difference was, like, so big. Like, the culture between LA, West Coast, East Coast was like, the main difference that I can mention is, like, I'm a huge, like, driver person. Like, I love driving. People don't drive in the East Coast.
Oh, yeah.
Like, when I was in film school, like, they would hire me to drive all the film production trucks because I was from California.
Oh.
So in addition to that, you know, people in the East Coast are, like, on a totally different pace that maybe us West Coasters are not used to. But just being, you know, exposed to that culture just really helped me shape, I guess, my artistic POV. And, you know, people also say, like, NYU versus USC, they're two very different film schools. Like they're going to say that USC is more like business oriented and more Hollywood films. NYU is more like the small indies that do really well in like Cannes or Sundance or whatever.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So how was the experience in film school?
NYU was very sink or swim. Like I came in as a transfer actually from Cal State Northridge. And I started the summer of my sophomore year, and like literally my first day in my sight and sound filmmaking class, this is what it was called, the professor was like an old Russian dude. I remember his name. His name was Boris. Okay. But he was literally like, if you're not here to like be the best filmmaker you can be, this is going to be fucking hard shit. Like you need to, like, if you're not up for it, you got to get out.
Wow.
Because you're not going to enjoy this. You're not going to succeed. Like, this is for, like, the people that are serious about your craft. And if you're not up to par, then you should leave. And people did leave.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. Like, after a couple weeks, like, after a couple assignments, and they saw how hard it was, they were like, this is not for me.
And you graduated?
I did graduate.
Oh, wow.
I graduated.
Congrats, then.
I'm not going to say the year. But I did graduate. I guess my official like major was like directing, but I had like a minor in producing, and all that entailed was like taking some producing classes and stuff like that. But I met a lot of good people.
Did you get to work with or have a class by Spike Lee?
I didn't, but I saw him in an elevator once. I did.
So he doesn't teach every semester, right?
He only teaches the graduate school when I was there, and I was an undergrad.
Okay. Oh, gotcha.
But I saw him like a couple of times. I was in an elevator with him, and I was like, you know what, don't fangirl, because like that's not cool at like Tisch or whatever. But yeah, I've eyeballed him a couple of times.
That's awesome. And then did you have a thesis film when you graduated?
I did. Well, the thesis, it's like weird how they do it, because only some, like you can opt to do a thesis if you want to. And it's like called a specific class, like advanced narrative. So if you really want to do a thesis film, you got to sign up for that class. And kind of like there's going to be a faculty member who's going to help you develop your script, help you crew it up. Like the people in the class like will crew with, like for you on your films. I did make, it was called Nocturnal. And it was like a really funny experience because I was so focused in my senior year to like be different in my filmmaking, because like my first film was like a comedy. It was like super cute, like rom-com, whatever. But I was like, oh, I want to make like a really dark, really like mysterious thriller. And it just like didn't hit. It didn't. Like it was shot really nice, and I used a really cool camera. And that was all that I cared about at the time. But that taught me a really important lesson. Like, don't try to be someone you're not. Because I was not that thriller, you know, writer.
You have to write the
script? You could also like, you know, have someone else write it for you, but I really wanted to like try something different. But it was just not hitting. Like it was terrible, and I'll admit it. But
did you finish it?
I did finish it.
Okay.
But it's never going to see the light of day.
What was it about?
It was about a guy who lived in like the suburbs of Philadelphia, who notices that, you know, a new couple next door moves in, and he becomes obsessed with the girl. He becomes obsessed with her, but then he would like watch her from outside her window and realize that she was being beat up by her husband.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, so it was like really heavy stuff. Am I allowed to swear, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. It was really heavy shit.
Yeah.
And like watching it back, I'm just like, what the fuck was I trying to do? You know, I was trying to be like David Fincher when I should have just been Janella.
Okay.
You know?
No, well, that's a good lesson to learn.
Yeah. And that was like probably one of my biggest struggles in film school is like, what is my voice? Because you could be a fan of Wes Anderson and David Fincher and, you know, really want to, or really respect their work and really want to emulate it in your own work, but you still got to make it your own. Yeah. So that was like the hard lesson I learned from that. $10,000 lesson.
Wow.
So yeah,
that's cool though.
Yeah.
So how did film school, especially NYU, help you after that in your career?
I think the best thing or the most valuable thing that I got from NYU was, number one, the network, like just knowing people and, you know, being around people that were just as passionate about what you want to do like you. But on top of that, I think the work ethic, I really absorbed and took that with me to my career, because when you were at NYU Film School, you were balancing your classes, but you were also balancing like being or crewing on other people's films, plus working on your own, plus internships. So it was like constant like film work day in and day out, and somehow managing to pass all my classes. So that work ethic and that mindset I took with me to all my jobs, like, and really channeling my passion into like doing all this work that's going to teach me something, you know? So I still carry that with me today.
That's good.
Actually, yeah.
So what was like, where did you go? You went into commercials after that, or?
I did. Actually, right after film school, I was like, I want to work in the studio system.
Oh, okay.
So I moved back to LA and I got a job at a talent management company. I think it was specifically a literary company, basically an agency.
Yeah.
And I worked for a manager there, and I hated it because I was an assistant.
Yeah, getting coffee.
I was getting coffee. I was rolling calls, and I learned the hard way that I'm terrible on the phone. Like, I am terrible. Like, people will say something to me, and I'd be like, I'm sorry, what did you say? But I was terrible on the phone, so I was a terrible assistant, you know? I was really good at, like, the calendar stuff or whatever, but talking to people and, like, all of that shit was just not my thing. And it really made me think, like, do I really want to be, like, in the studio system? Because, like, I knew that the path that if I stayed there, what it would eventually lead to is either being an agent or like a producer for a studio. That's not really what I wanted to do because I was more creative. So it was like I quit that job and I decided to move to the Philippines and try my hand at commercial directing. And that was really interesting because I had grown up there for a small portion of my life, but I had not known anybody professionally in my industry there, and like the video industry rather. And I really like was a grassroots, like cold emailing people, cold calling people, getting my name out there. And, you know, only a handful of people like gave me a shot. But when I got that shot, I like made sure that I fucking delivered, you know? There's this one director who had owned his own production company and did mainly like commercials and digital content, but he kind of took me under his wing. He's like, we'll co-direct this piece together, then you'll take some on your own. And I really learned a lot from him, and I really built my reel from that experience, which eventually led me to work for my friend who owned this great company called Seabiscuit Films, and they did mostly like travel, food content. So, you know, I had got that job because I had, you know, that experience from that previous job. And you know, I eventually like moved to another production house or production company that did more like television commercials, and they call it in the Philippines like TVCs. And those are like the big budget like commercials that you see on broadcast TV versus like YouTube or something. So it was kind of like, you know, every move was a step. Like I started from the bottom, like grassroots, to go into, you know, food and travel content, eventually making my way to the TVC level.
So why the Philippines?
Well, my family was there at the time, and it's where I grew up. So I had friends there, and honestly, like
your whole childhood was there, or was it?
No, I was born here. I was born in California. Then I moved to the Philippines, maybe from ages 5 to like 10 or 6 to 10. And that was enough time for me to like make friends and whatever. But I guess it was just an easy decision because I had already experienced what it was like to live there, I guess.
That's cool, yeah.
And honestly, it was like, for me, it was like, if there was a chance for me to break into the industry, like it would be the Philippines because, I don't know, I just felt like maybe I would be luckier there because
you know what's funny? I did a shoot here for the Filipino channel.
TFC, you did? Okay, how was that?
They came here for a convention. There was a bunch of Filipino stars. I don't know who they were, obviously. There was a bunch of people there, and I shot photos and video for them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because I don't know if you met Alfred.
I did.
Yeah,
Alfred,
he used to work with them, I guess, and I guess they're based in San Francisco.
They
and they came to the convention. They're like, "Hey, you guys, we need a shooter and
photos
and videos." So I was there. Yeah.
Yeah, the Filipinos love their content.
Oh, it was a big thing.
Yeah,
it was interesting to see.
Yeah, and I learned like working in that advertising world that I think the Philippines is the highest country in Asia with like on social media.
Oh.
So they do a shitload of digital content, like web series, whatever. series on Facebook. It's like a huge thing there. So I thought that would be a great place to like start my directing career.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So why didn't you like get into actual creating your own films, or did you create your films as well, or you just decided like let me go this route?
That's a good question. I think writing just takes a lot out of me. Like I feel like I do have like stories in me, and I'm writing like a piece right now. And I guess this is a great place to reference it, but it just takes so much out of you, or me personally, emotionally. Because like I need to put myself in the position of these characters, and I'm also like, this is not good enough. Like, should I change? Like, it just takes so much from my mental headspace that I need to be in the right setting, a right mindset, whatever. But I'm chipping away at it. Okay. You know, but I guess to go back to your question, like why commercials versus film or whatever, it was just the opportunity that presented itself, I guess. And the timing of it.
And you spent 5 years in the Philippines?
5 years. 5 years.
And then once you got back to the US, what was like the difference in creating over there versus here?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, the Philippine content in general has a different style to it, which I don't think is my style personally. Sorry, Tasha. Is my style personally. So, you know, I was doing what I can there, but I feel like I didn't really fit what they were looking for in a lot of ways, especially with the big budget commercials. So, you know, it got to a point where I was just like, you know, I want to try it in Vegas, and I want to try something different. Then I moved to Vegas and took the promo producer job at Fox 5, which I honestly think is the best job that I've ever had, because it taught me so much about the technical aspects of everything. Because Fox 5 is so small, you know, like you need to be able to do everything, like shoot, edit, light, whatever. Those were tools that I did not have before I started that job.
So what was your main, I guess, job in the Philippines?
I was a director, so it was a lot of delegating.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, like I would receive a bid, right? Like a rough like idea of what the client would want. And I would make like a treatment around it, and like, this is how I would light this is how I would execute it, this is what the tone would be, this is how I would edit it. But it was more from like a supervising role. So like when we stepped on set, it would be like a crew of 20 to 30 people that I was just delegating, like, hey, can you light it like this? Hey, can you make the camera movement a little like this? And same when I went to post-production, I was with a group of editors that would be helping me out. So it was never like me doing the stuff.
What about film school? Did you get on behind camera and editing at all?
Editing, not so much, no. Okay. I would always ask my friends who were editors or who wanted to be editors do it. Because I never wanted to be an editor, honestly. But it's just something that I fell into and I like fell in love with.
Okay.
And that's what Fox 5 taught me. And that's what I'm so thankful for, because it really like makes you learn or know everything from the bottom up. Like if you can't like do it yourself, you know, that's kind of like my mentality of it. Like you should be able to do it just as good as you expect other people to do it for you.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's where you learn how to edit, pretty much, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I actually confessed this to Allison, who, do you remember Allison?
She hired me.
Exactly. Yeah. But I was like, I kind of oversold myself, like when I was first, you know, interviewing for the job, because like I said, I edited stuff, but it was more from like a supervising type of role. And I'm always thankful to all the editors that I've like, you know, sat beside and like looked over their shoulder, because I would be learning from the stuff that they would do on Premiere Pro. So like when it was my turn to edit, it was like kind of, you know, familiar, I guess.
You weren't starting from like scratch.
Right. Yeah. Like your girl can cut a clip, okay? Your girl can cut a clip. You know, she could stick some clips and stuff like that. And so.
Okay, dope. So yeah, after Fox 5, that brought you to the Raiders.
The Raiders.
So talk about that. How was the transition to, you know, a big like the NFL?
Yeah. And I was terrified. Like up until that point, like I really, really wanted it when I was interviewing and I saw the position. I really wanted it because I just wanted to challenge myself. And everyone had said that sports is like a really hard industry to get to. And like you need previous sports experience, which I didn't have. But I felt really like it was a great fit because I had all the skills that they needed. Like for my position, the main like job description was that I needed to be able to identify storylines within the organization and like feature them through video features, which is basically what I do now. But in addition to that, I was also a shooter. I was an editor. I had all these tools under my belt that just fit the mold of what they needed for their team, because it was a very small team. It still is a very small team. But the first...
You said there's like 5 people, 5, 6 people or something?
Well, there's my supervisor, and there's me, and there's 2 shooter editors.
Oh, okay.
And we have 2 PAs right now, but they're seasonal and they like are part-time. But the core guys is 4 of us.
That's crazy.
Can
for
you
a whole
imagine?
NFL team, yeah.
Yeah, for an NFL media team, and we travel too. And much respect to Connor and Sam, who are the 2 shooter editors, but they literally travel to every game.
Okay.
Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Like it's a tough job for sure.
So what is the content that, because there's so much content, so what specifically do you or your department focuses on? Right.
So my department, the video department, which is within Silver and Black Productions, we handle all like the video features. So any features that you see on players, on people within the organization, that's us. We also do Behind the Shield, which is our season-long docu-series that chronicles, the football team's progress throughout the seasons. But we also do it in the off-season too, so it's more like a year-long thing. In addition to that, we also handle all the sponsorship the sponsored videos that brands will come and ask us to partner on certain things, for us to come up with concepts for them. So we do that too. So it's like a lot that we touch. There's also other arms of Silver and Black Productions, but the video department, that's specifically what we do.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah.
So, well, how's the difference in, I guess, the content and like you roll in the Raiders? Like, how is it different from everything else you've done?
Oh my gosh. I guess from working in advertising, I've worked with a lot of different clients. It's nice at the Raiders because you only have one client and they have a specific voice and they have a specific look, and you're not trying to reinvent the wheel every week, And the Raiders do have a very specific brand and a very specific voice. So having those guidelines makes it easier for me as a producer. But it's also, presents its own challenges, because like, how can you present this in a different way that's fresh, et cetera, et cetera. But I kind of like that, I kind of like that formula, because my biggest qualm, I guess, with working in advertising was just having those different clients and having those different personalities.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I like...
And you know what I'm talking
about.
Now
that I'm doing commercials, I like doing something different every time.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I was doing it for 5 years. It was exhausting. And maybe it's just my ADHD, but it really got to me, because
with
like
promos, you do the promos for the Raiders?
Yes, but we don't do a lot of like promos. I was asked to recently do one like a couple months ago, and I was like, let me stretch these promo muscles. Like, sit down. I gotcha.
So
that was fun. Yeah.
All the social media stuff that I see, is that stuff that you do, or no? Or is that somebody else?
Social media stuff, like the teases and stuff?
Yeah, you see like the players, and you see all these like different social media edits.
Yes. Well, the stuff that you see on social media, it's a mix of video team and social team.
Oh, okay.
Like the more like polished, elevated stuff is the video team. Like you'll see teases for Behind the Shield or teases for the features that I'm doing. But for all like the quick turns, like the stuff shot on the phone, stuff like, just a player like making a really quick catch and just being posted, that's like all the social team.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like doing different things every time.
Yeah.
So it's funny because that's how promos was. It was just like, and it's the same sponsors kind of every year that you got to do. So that's interesting.
I was going to say too, the thing I miss about promos and the promo department is just like 30-second spot, 15-second spot, 10-second. Like I just miss that formula, knowing that you have 30 seconds to tell a story.
Are you editing the whole docuseries?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So like this recently I just did a feature on Robert Spillane, who's one of our linebackers, and it was like a 3-minute piece. And it's it's all very fluid and flexible. Like one of my features is going to be 3 minutes, one of them is going to be 8 minutes, but I kind of miss that formula of just like 30 seconds. Putting it on air, because there's not that kind of structure, I guess, in the content that I'm doing now.
How is it being at the games? Do you shoot at the games a lot?
Oh, yeah. This is, this season was different because I was given a different assignment. usually, or last season, I was shooting the game action. I wasn't very good at it. Like, that's not my strength. I'll be real. So this season, my supervisor was like, hey, why don't you do sideline sounds? Which is a very simple concept. I'm just behind the bench with the camera and I have a boom operator, and we're kind of just like eavesdropping on the players and the coaches' conversations.
Okay.
So that was always fun.
And you mic'd them up, right?
Well, we mic'd up is also another like piece of content that we do. Okay. We do all of that during game day. So there's sideline sounds, there's mic'd up. Then Connor and Sam are usually shooting the game. So it's just like everyone's doing everything.
Something on there.
Yeah.
Do you get a chance to like enjoy the game at all?
Not when I'm doing sideline sounds. Yeah. To be honest, like that was my biggest challenge this season because like I'm so focused on, Devontae Adams is having a conversation with Josh Jacobs that I don't get to see the plays. Like I just hear the crowd erupt and I'm like, oh shit, what just happened? I'm like, oh God, Jack Jones just caught an interception and whatever. But not a lot of the time. I have to try to keep up with the monitors when I'm working behind the bench.
Are you a big sports fan? Did you like going into sports?
Before I came to the Raiders, I was not a football fan. I was actually a soccer fan, like
that's
Barcelona,
right.
Man City. Yeah. I kind of, it was funny because my boss said, like, you don't need to know the X's and O's of football for this job. Mm-hmm. But now that I'm in my position, you kind of do. Because you got to,
you got to know who's who.
You got to know what's going on. Like, I remember Max Crosby got a safety this season. And I literally turned around like, what's a safety? But it's just something that I put upon myself to, like, learn from every game. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm still learning every day. But I was not a huge football fan. Mm-hmm. Like, I knew the Raiders, of course. I knew that, it's just a global brand and a storied franchise. But the football, like, I just knew what a quarterback was.
That's so funny.
But yeah.
Cool. Let's see. Oh, so I was going to ask you, like, what do you guys shoot on? Are you guys shooting on different kind of cameras? Because you say some of the stuff you guys do is more elevated. So what do you guys? Yeah.
We shoot on all Sonys. Okay. Sponsored. I'm just kidding. Promoted.
Yeah, like send me a camera.
Sonys are great. I'm just so used to the menus and their their capability of handling low light.
FX6s, FX3s, or what? We
shoot on FX6s. We have a 3 and 2 9s, FX9s. Okay. But the reason I'm not a huge fan of the FX9 because it can't do autofocus at 120 frames per second. So if you're thinking of getting a 6 or a 9 or a 6, get the 6 for sure.
Oh, I don't do autofocus. I'm a filmmaker. I'm just kidding.
Not when you're shooting sports. You gotta autofocus.
Yeah. Actually, I shot. I have the Sony over here, so I need.
Nice.
I need an upgrade Sony. No, I want to get the FX3. That's kind of like the one, the one I can afford. Yeah. But yeah, I just shot for the Vegas Thrill. Okay. And I shot most of it manual focus.
No way. You are skilled, my friend.
And I was on a long lens, and it was because autofocus was not fast enough. Yeah. So I would miss the plays. So I was like, let me switch it real quick. And I think I still kept the autofocus on, but I was still able to
pull it.
I would still pull the focus out. But it was fun. First,
Dude, you're skilled because literally last season I had so much trouble with auto or with the manual focus. Yeah. And this season it was just as easy as doot. And I use the FX3 for sideline sounds too. So it was just,
and that's the best thing about the Sonys is their focus is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially now. Well, thanks for being on the podcast.
Of course.
Man. That was fun. Learned a lot. I'm going to leave your info below if you want people to follow you and check out all your Raider stuff.
Yeah. So, you could just follow me on Instagram. It's at Janella Lacson. That's at JANELLALACSON.
For sure. All right. Thank you guys. See you next time.
Thank you.
Peace.